Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Hypochondriac. And this is a new horror thriller from writer-director Addison Heimann, and focuses on a young Potter's life devolves into chaos as he loses function of his body while haunted by the physical manifestation of childhood trauma. And we have the story of Will, played by Zach Villa, who is a charismatic lead, an engaging lead, and a character that has a lot of baggage. He was almost killed by his mother, who almost strangled him to death, as we see at the beginning of this film, as she needed to get some psychiatric help. And 18 years later, he's an adult, and when she reaches out and tries to make contact, his own physical well-being and mental state start to spiral. And this film tries a couple different ways to deal with mental illness. It tries to deal with it head on in a very blunt and very serious way. It's not trying to pull punches. You see horrible things that potentially could happen. You also see a metaphysical and metaphorical sense of this torturous trauma that keeps creeping up in the form of this disturbing wolf-looking man that keeps popping up to Will. And it did take me out of the film quite a bit because it looks almost exactly like Frank the Rabbit from Donnie Darko. Like, almost exactly the coloring and everything. It just, the design looked very similar. It's just like, okay. It is creepy and it is unnerving, and those horror elements when they creep up are unnerving and uncomfortable to watch. But the issue I found with this film is, as the film goes on and Will's mental state devolves, it's hard to figure out what exactly is happening or not. And after a while, everything just isn't happening. It's all in Will's head. And you're just like, what's the point? What's the weight here? What's actually paying off? What's the stakes here? Obviously his mental health. But like, what's actually going on with this tension? It just kind of feels like it's not just to torture Will, but try to get scares and stuff like that from the audience. And it doesn't feel like it's moving or progressing towards something. And it just kind of feels cheap, and after a while kind of checked out to the story, because I'm like, none of this matters to the story. It's just, we know he has mental health problems. It's just these things are happening. And there are pretty disturbing things and uncomfortable things, and they fit in thematically and represent his own anxieties. But, you know, it just feels like a cop-out. It's like, oh my god, that didn't happen? That didn't happen? Oh, that didn't happen. And it's just like, okay. And it feels like a cheap narrative device after a while, when like half the back end of your film is fake. And the characters in this, besides his boyfriend Luke, played by Devon Graye, who I feel like has some depth, has some moments here, and I think he's a good addition to the film. Everybody else is written to the point where they just feel like these paper-thin, obnoxious stereotypes that are just there to provoke, like, oh my god, these people are terrible. Everybody's terrible. Nobody cares. All this stuff. And it's really uninteresting because they're like laughably flat and stereotypical at times, and it kind of takes you out of the film. There's a lot of important themes here. There's a strong central performance here. There's unnerving moments that will get a reaction out of you. But I wish this film added up to more than it actually did. And by the end, like, there's some hopefulness and an idea of how to move forward and an understanding, but it didn't feel as satisfying as it probably should have. But those are my thoughts on Hypochondriac. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.